and I will talk myself out of it. And it's not usually because I am afraid. It's usually because I assume I shouldn't, because it's a little bit of this like rebellious mindset for me. It's like, oh, all these little perfect timeline people wouldn't do it this way. Therefore, you probably shouldn't either. And I just am like, and she said, no part of your life has gone the storybook way, like none. And so, and he works that way because you need to act fast so that you can't talk yourself out of it, because he has a mission for you. He has a purpose and he wants you to get there. And he knows if you have 6 months or 6 years to think about it, you may change your mind because you'll start overthinking and you may not do it.
You're listening to the Big Ideas Podcast with Ashlee Erin. Tune in for honest conversations as we pursue bold dreams, redefine what is possible, and empower the next generation to live big. You'll hear stories that prove over and over again that just because something wasn't a part of our plan doesn't mean it won't be used for our good. Whether you're already an entrepreneur, you dream of becoming one, or you're raising the next generation of entrepreneurs, this podcast is for you. There's no time to waste on your big ideas. So let's get started. Here's your host, Ashlee Erin.
Hey friends, welcome back to the Big Ideas Podcast. This is so exciting. I love, this is the first episode of our new season. We've kind of, rebranded a little bit, kind of shifted the focus. Every season we do this, but I'm just like kind of extra pumped about what the season means for us. I've got a packed lineup of friends and just amazing women who are going to be sharing that I just get an opportunity to share the mic with and have a conversation with. And today's episode with Erin Weathers is going to be just an amazing kickoff for this season. I couldn't think of a better friend I shouldn't say this. She's one of many amazing friends that I can have on this podcast to start, but I think our topic is just going to really resonate with a lot of our listeners. And I'm excited to just kind of pick her brain and dig into her story, some of the lessons learned. This season is all about let's talk about what might be considered impossible and let's see how God can turn it to be possible. Let's talk about some success mindset, some doing hard things and what really comes from it. Sort of those crazy moments in life that turned out better than we could expect, right? And so that's sort of an ongoing trend for this season. And so, we're going to just jump right in. So Erin, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Yes. I'm so excited.
So I'm going to let Erin kind of jump right in, but just a little bit of background, and Erin, definitely feel free to fill in any blanks too, because I'm certainly not going to give your whole bio, but Erin is a wife and mother of 5 amazing kiddos. We share that badge of honor of 5 kids. She's also an entrepreneur. She's a business owner. She's got a couple hair salons that we're going to get into as well too. So Erin, go ahead and take it away. Tell us a little bit about, we're going to just jump right into your salon ownership days, and then we'll kind of work backwards. So maybe give all of us kind of a bird's eye view of kind of what a day in the life looks like for you, or what life looks like as being a salon owner, a multi-salon owner, and kind of what that looks like for you.
Okay, so I own Maidley Hair Co. We have a location in downtown Sonoya, right on Main Street, and also in Sharpsburg. Mm-hmm. A week in the life would be I work behind the chair a few days a week, and then I'm kind of doing behind the scenes work, salon ownership work the other days, while also running kids to sports and school, and just trying to fix dinner and also work out and get enough sleep and all the things that all the moms are trying to do, all working moms are trying to do. I also am trying to do all of those things. I don't always get to do them all. I rarely get to do them all, but I do kind of try to manage my time, where certain days I'm behind the chair. That's the hat I have today. I'm doing hair today. And then other days this is just like salon ownership duties. And that's what I'm doing today. Mm-hmm. And then other days I'm just focusing on my family, and I'm not allowing work to enter this boundary. I have to keep it separate. So kind of.
Yeah. And I know, for several years you were, like you say, just not just behind the chair, but you were behind the chair. You were not the salon owner. So maybe kind of walk us through that journey of what led you to taking over a salon, opening up a new salon, some of those unknowns and walking into that.
Okay. So I I have moved relatively quick on paper for my career in terms of the average salon owner. The average ones you meet either have never done hair and they're just a business owner, or they did hair for, so many years and always dreamt of owning a salon. And then finally, kind of decided to take the leap and do that. I kind of tend to do everything backwards or like the opposite of what is like kind of expected on paper. So I pretty fresh after getting my license. So I stayed at home with my kids for a long time, like over a decade. And in a way, I always wanted to do hair. I just never knew I always wanted to do hair. I had all my kids young and kind of felt like I can't do that now. I've got all these kids and I'm committed to my family and it's too late now. But I did find an opportunity to apprentice at a salon and was able to get my license while still kind of figuring out. My youngest was he was about to be 2. And so I got my license and worked in a salon and pretty quickly decided to go and work independently as a booth rent stylist so that I could manage my hours and my schedule and everything myself. That was always my end goal, was I wanted to put in the work, even though it was like a lot with the ages of my kids. I wanted to be able to kind of pave the way now so that when I at least had some of my kids old enough to know what the busyness looks like once they're big kids and teenagers. And I was like, by the time all of them are big kids, I want to already be able to take off Saturdays and all these things. I don't want to still be trying to what is the phrase, like, you gotta crawl before you can walk. I was like, I want to go ahead and get this out of the way so that I can be where I want to be by the time the rest of my kids are big. So that's what I did. I worked independently and I booth rented from my salon. And I had known for a while, pretty early on, that the former owner was interested in selling, but I of course was like, oh, it's too soon in my career. I'm the daughter of business owners. My parents owned a business for like 27 years, I think, and retired from it and sold. And I literally said I never would own a business. It was like the first thing I said, I'll never own a business. But God works funny like that. You always think you know what you want. But anyway, so then about a year and a half or so into just booth renting, I started thinking maybe I would want to buy this salon. Like it kind of would be like, maybe I could see myself as the owner. And so I feel like he just worked on my heart through wanting to be a salon owner, but actually not through the salon I worked at. So I went and visited this little town about 20 minutes from me they're kind of bringing it back like Main Street.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's no salon. I could do it here. And in my head, I was a little bit Elle Woods, like what? Like it's hard. Like I'll just still keep my clientele and rent a chair here. Cause thankfully when you are independent, you don't have to worry about, you can work wherever you want. And I was like, and I'll just start up this little baby salon. So that's what I did, or that's the process I began. And then it took a long time to get approved to open that salon. And in the meantime, my salon that I worked at, it started looking like I was going to buy that one instead of starting my own. And then basically within a week of each other, like the week I was due to sign for the purchase of my business that I worked at, the Hogansville people got back to me and were like, yeah, you can bring a salon here. So then I had to make this fork in the road decision of like, do I say no, thank you? Because now I'm buying my salon. And instead I decided, okay, I'll just do both.
Yeah.
So one was established. That was the one I worked at. I was going to go from coworker to owner. The other did not exist. And I literally had to build it out from nothing, like this tiny little 400 square foot studio. I turned it into a little salon. I didn't even have employees. I just said, I think I'm going to try to bring a salon here. So that's what I did.
So I have to pause you though, because I remember when you were in that spot, because I think I was in your chair when all of this was like up in the air and you're like, I want to do this. I think this might be an option. And you literally, I remember the feeling I had never been to downtown Hogansville before, but you painted this whole picture of like walking down the road and you looked up and you saw, the pillars and this old, was it an old an old hotel?
Yeah.
That was just completely being refurbished. Anyway, you painted this whole picture of like, I think this is like, I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth. I don't know if you said like, this is like a dream, but it was like, to me, I was like, I want to do what you're doing. Like it was so captivating. motivating. And so like, you were so persuaded that it was going to happen. You just didn't know how, you didn't know when.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, in the next 6 weeks, when I come back for highlights again, like there's going to be such a good story here. Cause it was like literally unfolding, as you were like sharing like in that journey with me. And I just remember that feeling. I was so excited for you because I could just hear it like in your, in your words, in your spirit, all of that. And so, okay, so could continue. I just had to add that because it was.
No, that's fun. I love
Yeah.
it. I love that you got to like live it in real time.
Yeah.
So I basically, I in secret, cause I was afraid of what people would think of me. I was afraid of their, like, this is a bad idea. What are you doing? Kind of like, I always like compare it to like when you're pregnant with your baby and like the first couple of kids, you share the name while you're pregnant.
Yes.
You get a couple of like, I don't like that. And then you get your feelings hurt. And so after a couple, you say, I'm not going to say the name till the baby gets here, because at least when the baby's here, they don't tell me to my face they don't like it. They just have to accept it. So I decided to kind of operate from that aspect. So I went through it anyway, and I really had no business doing any of that. I had no business. Other than the dream of the town of what I thought it could be, I really had no like really foundation for why I wanted to be there. I just felt extremely called to do it. And I remember through a lot of prayer saying like with God, like, I'm not sure what your purpose for me to do this is. I don't know if it's for me or if it's for a future stylist that wants to work here. I remember that being very loud in my mind and in my heart of like, this may not be for me. I'm not sure this is for me, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. And so I did. And I was given extremely good advice from a mentor that said, even if you do it for a year and it doesn't make you any money and you decide it wasn't for you, the experience that you'll get from doing that, you cannot buy that anywhere. You can't take a class. You can't, like, you're never going to get that experience as a business owner. So I think you should do it. So that's what I did. And then fast forward to this past fall, I ended up selling it to my head stylist there. She was kind of exactly what I had in my head of maybe God had me doing this for. I just didn't know her at the time, but she lived there and she had poured so much of herself into it. And I just felt like when she expressed that she would be interested in taking over, I was ready to pass the torch on, because I felt like my purpose in that was fulfilled. Like that was all I was supposed to be, was the startup of it. I never knew if it was going to be forever. I do feel like that's an important mindset to have as an entrepreneur, is to just say, like, at the end of the day, it is business. You can't be like married to it, or it'll cloud your judgment. So I kind of like, I planted the seed, I built it, I grew it, and then I just passed it on to to go fly, be a little dragonfly and fly into the world. So that's what I did with that. And then had an opportunity to buy an established existing salon much more closer within 15 minutes of my home base. And that was just like a huge, opportunity for me to really change the game in terms of two salons operating under one name, one brand. And that is where I am today, is just my two Coweta sister salons.
I love that. And so kind of going back to what you were saying with sharing, your vision or like your kids' names, so I can totally relate with that. And so I'm going to kind of draw a comparison. So, okay, like when we had our first, one or two, and maybe you didn't ask for their opinions, but they gave you their opinions. And then you kind of learned like, I'm just not going to tell you anymore. Well, by the last one, I was like, I'm going to tell you the name and I actually don't care what you say about it. So it was like this whole progression of like, oh no, what you just said hurt my feelings. So now I'm not going to tell you because I can't handle your opinions, but I'm going to protect myself. And then you kind of get to the point where you're like, not only am I okay with you not agreeing with what I say, I'm confident enough also to share it with you.
I'm secure in this.
I'm so secure. Yes. And so with 3 salons now, over time, did you kind of have like a similar, like, I'm going to tell you what I'm doing, and if you don't like it, I actually don't care, because I'm so secure with my purpose and my vision and my, my next step here. I don't know what the answer to that is. So, or was it like, I'm still not telling anybody until I open the doors?
It is more like the first, like it definitely, it's kind of laughable to me how much I care, I shouldn't even say I cared or I worried, but it is a little bit, I will say this, as a visionary person, one thing that I have become more through just my own like awareness, self-awareness is not everyone has the ability to have your vision. What I was able to do with that little 400 square foot studio space in Hogansville, like not only did no one else see it, but like people were adamant that it was like even like opinions that do matter to me were a little like, I'm not really sure why you're doing this. Like, you don't really have to do this. Why are you doing this? Like, it's not a good idea, or not that it wasn't a good idea, but just sort of like, why?
Right.
And I have this vision, and I learned through that process to like trust myself, because even something as simple as the color of flooring when I was, designing, and someone, could come in and say, we need to redo all this flooring. It's not a perfect match. But really, it's like, no, I have in my head I'm going to tie it all together, and you're not even going to notice this flooring when I get done.
Yeah.
And so I had to trust myself not to get hung up in each step of the process, this person's thoughts, because none of them have the vision that I have, because God did not assign that to them. It's my assignment. So he's going to place on my heart the ideas that he has for me that I should do. And I do have this gift of like seeing potential, and guess what? We all have different strengths, and not everyone has. Other people, their actual gift is to see the gaps and how it may not work. And it's what makes the world go around. We all collaborate. And here I am, instead of being delusional, I am delusional, but like, instead of only delusion, I can bring in people who I respect and admire to say, tell me, like, okay, go ahead, break it to me, what could go wrong. But ultimately, I still can trust myself that my vision and the potential that I see it may not be understood by other people. It just may not. And I have to be okay with that and trust myself enough to just proceed anyway. And I feel like too, with in worrying about like what people think, one thought process that I've kind of come to is like, so I personally am not someone that I don't make decisions for the approval of others. Like, I always use this example of like, if I like a pair of sandals from the Dollar General, I don't really care if someone knows that they're from the Dollar General or that they were from some cute Instagram link or whatever. If I like them, that's what I'm going to do. But like, if I'm making a decision and I actually know that you don't approve, that's where I struggle, like, is like rejection. And so I feel like where I've come to now is when it comes to other people, like they are going to think what they want to think. Right. They are. Guess what? I do. Right. I have opinions about how I perceive other people living their life. I have it in my mind. The reality though is the odds of them telling me their opinion are very, very like little, very low. And they're going to think it anyway, but that doesn't mean they're paying my bills. It doesn't mean that they're encouraging me. They're not my people. So at that point, I should just live my life anyway, because they're going to think it, but they're also going to live their life anyway too. So we can't get hung up on the what if of their thing.
Yeah. And I love how you were, tying that in with like the complete vision. It's like, I think even when we think we've seen, like when you finished, like say like the visual of the Hogansville salon, like it still is just, it's beautiful. Like what you physically did with that space, anybody could walk in and be like, oh, now I see what your vision was, and I'm complete opposite. I'm like, I need you to show me a Pinterest picture and then I can go copy it. I need to see the end and then I can work backwards. That's my comfort zone anyway. But I love how, like to that point, well, what if when you think you've gotten to the end, well, what if you're actually just getting started? Like, well, actually that salon is like just getting started. So now the next person has like a fresh slate. It's obviously come a long way already, but now they can like take what you've already built and like just keep going, And so it's almost like I have so many thoughts. Even just the point of, wanting other people's approval or knowing that that you don't want their approval, or you're not trying to wait for their approval, I guess is probably more what you were saying. It's not necessarily, it's coming. So, but you're not waiting for it to make your decisions. It's not validating whether you're moving forward or not, you know? And
Yes.
just, I think that's so great. I mean, that's such a great way to say that, because your vision is your vision. And
even my vision for my life, like
right.
in this specific conversation, we're talking about the physical looks or the location of where I made decisions. But actually, I really, at one point, I really was struggling with, should I become a hairstylist or not? And what will people think? I'm a mom, 5 kids. On paper, I had no business saying, okay, at 32 years old, let me now go after what I've always wanted to do. The logical thinking really had me living in this like small box of, it's too late. It's like, that would have been nice. Too bad. Oh, wish you could have done that. And like, for whatever reason, God just kept kind of nudging me like, no, I think you can do it. I think it's okay. It'll be okay. And it doesn't mean that it worked out perfectly or it was like just so easy. Like when I first started my training, I was earning $7 an hour and paying a babysitter $14 an hour for those exact same hours. I was in a deficit every time I left the house to go and pursue my career.
Yeah.
But I knew it's going to pay off one day. But like even that, and I'm not saying everybody has the same opportunities to do that, but I'm just saying even that was reason enough for me to be like, this is crazy. What am I doing? I can't do this. But I just was like, no, I had a vision for my life and for my career of where I wanted to be. And if starting off at $7 an hour was going to ultimately get me to 5 years down the road where I wanted to be, then I was like, all right, well, let's jump in. Like, this is how I'm going to get there. And I also feel like when I decided to leave my commission salon and go booth rent, you know, I really only had, like on paper, I had no business doing that. I really only had a handful of clients, and I didn't have the safety net or the cushion of a salon finding me clients. And, you know, like that's how commission salon works. But I was like, no, I was, to be honest with you, I was a little more driven for myself than I was for someone else, not like for another business or anything. And so that kind of lit a fire under me where it was like, okay, you've got to pay your rent to be here at the end of the week. How many, you know, like let's hustle. How many appointments can you take to be able to make that money? At the very least, you need to make your rent. And then it just domino effect built from there. And so then fast forward to basically sitting at a crossroads of business ownership. Do I want to be a salon owner? I had no business doing it. The ink was barely dry on my license. I mean, not literally, but figuratively, I had no business jumping into that. But I also am a really big believer in like opportunity, and I fear more like regret than I do the what if of whatever. But I certainly did worry, what will other people think? Cause like none of them would probably do this. It's all the wrong timing. But I have like an amazing therapist. And one of the things that she spoke to me during that time when I was struggling with like, this is crazy, right? I don't need to do this, right? And she said to me, God has always, if you look at your life, all of the most meaningful things that you've done, he didn't give you a whole lot of time to think about it. Cause a lot of them are pretty fast. They're usually like right now you need to see. And I will talk myself out of it. And it's not usually because I am afraid. It's usually because I assume I shouldn't, because it's a little bit of this like rebellious mindset for me. It's like, oh, all these little perfect timeline people wouldn't do it this way. Therefore, you probably shouldn't either. And I just am like, and she said, no part of your life has gone the storybook way, like none. And so, and he works that way because you need to act fast so that you can't talk yourself out of it, because he has a mission for you. He has a purpose and he wants you to get there. And he knows if you have 6 months or 6 years to think about it, you may change your mind because you'll start overthinking and you may not do it. And he knows that about you. And so he does. Cause I would say, why does it always seem so like, what are the odds that the week I'm due to sign, now they get back to me, this pursuit of 7 months, they wait till the week. And it was just like, you got to decide right now. You can't take 7 more months to decide. And so anyway, that's part of the growth that I've experienced, is just trusting the opportunity and not sort of worrying about what people will think, because so far, God has proven to me that it was right for me, even if even if it would have been wrong for someone else.
Yeah, that's so good. Like, I don't know if that was just for me. I hope, I mean, I'm going to be hitting rewind on that part maybe over and over again. That is so good. It's so good. Okay. Hey friend, I wanted to take a quick pause to ask if you've taken the quiz yet to find out what type of dreamer are you. It's super important to discover what's working for you, but also some things that may be keeping you from really pursuing your greatest purpose. It takes just 2 minutes to find out if you're the skimboarder, the sunbather, the sandcastle builder, or the surfer babe. So jump over to dreamerquiz.com and be sure to share your results and tag me in it. Now back to the show. And so I want to ask you, because I feel like in terms of, it's almost like if I could put like a banner around what you just said, would you say that you have more, or you tend to maybe have more fear of failure or fear of success because of what success would look like, or like what success would entail of you? Like, I don't perceive you as somebody who has fear of failure.
I think I have fear of regret.
Okay.
So that's neither. I have fear of, I don't want to lay my head down at night knowing that I did not live my life to the fullest, like potential. So in that category also falls an opportunity that I would personally feel ashamed of if the reason I didn't pursue it was because I was scared.
Yeah.
Like, do it scared is kind of my thing. Do it scared. Like, you're going to be scared anyway. Life is uncomfortable anyway. Yeah. The time will pass anyway. But I would rather let the time pass knowing that I tried than let the time pass wishing that I would have, which is, to be honest with you, in a way, I wouldn't change my like early years of adulthood played out, but I did live with a little bit of like, I wish I had done hair because I would love to be doing hair. You know what I mean? So like maybe even those years of kind of wishing that I could get that time back to do it, but equally not wanting to give up where I was in my life then. I do think I don't want to regret. I don't want to regret. Not for the sake of comfort, at least. Yeah. For anything else, yes. Like if it's wise, but not for comfort, because life is uncomfortable.
Yeah. 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 And I would say, just knowing you, that it's not just your business that you have that mindset about. Your whole life is, I'm not going to waste time. There's no time to waste. Like, this door might close tomorrow. Today's the day. Like, my kids need me here. My friends, I want to do this with my friends here. I mean, like, your spontaneity and your, like you said, wise, but like, you're so fun. I'm just going to say that you're just fun, and you're like adventurous and spontaneous. And how did I put it? I was like, you're like the, how did I say it? You make every day a special occasion, and you make everyone around you feel like the guest of honor. So you just have this gift. You have many gifts, but that's such a gift of yours. And I feel like the mindset of do it scared is literally in that same, like, oh, well, the day's not perfect. It doesn't matter. We're going to make it happen anyway. Oh, the opportunity is not wide open and ironed out and the floors aren't already laid for me. It doesn't matter. I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to make it special. I'm going to make it so special. And I love that.
Well, I remember when I was a little girl, I would use my mindset. I would try to, use it to my mom to explain why, she would say, you've got to wash your laundry. And I would say, Mom, when I'm on my deathbed, do you think I'm going to be worried about my laundry or not? And she would say, but Erin, you have to wash your clothes. You can't just put it off. So that is where, as I've grown up, I do have to, unfortunately, I can't do it. I can't.
You got to do some of those things.
You have to have someone in. But I can see when I was a little girl, even I was wanting to, seize the day, including like, let's not do any chores. That doesn't matter. But perfectionism, actually, I don't know. I actually really, I am a perfectionist. I don't know if I don't look like it from I'm not type A, but I am a perfectionist in that I really struggle with wanting it to be perfect. And that was actually something that I had thought about, was something that I have to overcome, or like an old habit that I have to overcome is perfectionism. It's not just perfection, but also like making it curated or complete. I personally do love like a red carpet experience with all the details thought out. And like, if it's your first time seeing the salon, because I have a vision, I really want the whole vision to be ready for you, like a surprise. Like, present. To me, if I haven't done it all the way, it's almost like handing you your gift and I didn't wrap it, or there's actually 3 more things, they just didn't arrive yet. The gift doesn't feel as special to me if it's not complete. But where you can't let that be, that's a toxic way of thinking, is that also prevents people from starting because they want it to be all these things. So something that I've had to overcome is to say, okay, well, I got to do it anyway, because whether it's financially or time or, just circumstances, you can't always do in business everything you want to do from the beginning, right off the bat. You really can't. And so I feel like that's something I've had to just choose to be consistent and to just show up over having it just so. And now I'll have this curated everything. And now it's like this little bow, symbol of like, here you go. Now everything is ready. And like, I think there's something to be said about little bits of progress do add up to exceptional growth, that if you never start, you're just still where you were a year later because it could be perfect. And so,
yeah. And all the perfectionists listening said, amen. Yes.
It's a sickness.
Yeah. Self-awareness helps, but yes. All right. So you're talking about some things that you've become more aware of, things that you've worked to overcome. So let's talk about, I know we've talked about this before, but old habits or old mindsets that no longer serve us, like doing things or going places or thinking certain ways. Perfectionism is probably one of them as well, but that, they no longer serve us. And why, in your opinion, like, why is that so crucial for growth? I mean, you've got such a great growth mindset of believing for more, dreaming for more, expecting more. So old habits that served us at a certain time, they're not bad habits. They're just maybe a little bit more limiting beliefs for where you've grown to now. What would you, maybe talk about some of the, your growth in that area?
So I would say first and foremost, at least for myself and my struggle with rejection, I'm sensitive to rejection. I think some people just are, and it's kind of how you're like, we all view the world through a lens of a little bit we all view the world through a lens of a lie from the enemy that we see more than other people see. Mine is rejection. Someone else's could be, control. Like if they may feel easily controlled, so they, resist that, whatever. We all have like a little emotion that tends to be a little more sensitive than others, and mine is rejection. And I feel like the first and foremost thing that I have to do is just know my worth, and like, know, for me as a believer, it's like what God says about me ultimately is the only opinion I really can live for, even above my husband, even above my children, which those are big too. I want my children to know I love them, and I want to be a good wife, and I want my husband to know I love him. But ultimately, if I'm not pleasing God and I'm not doing what's best in his eyes, then that doesn't matter, because they're not all going to be lined up with me. When I'm answering for my life and my choices. And so I feel like knowing my worth and what God says about me is like crucial for me to be able to like wake up every day and make decisions. I also feel like it's really important to speak to yourself more than you listen to yourself, because our emotions and our thoughts can mislead us. Right. And scripture says that you need to speak truth, read the truth, only have the truth, because we will, if we go based off how we feel, we will always be misled. And so that's huge for me. The other thing is it's important to sort of reflect back, because I actually have like tangible evidence of how God has proven to me that I can trust myself. I can trust my abilities. I can believe in myself. He's proven that to me by me listening and obeying his calling. He's shown me that I'm not crazy with wanting to be a hairstylist, or I'm not crazy for wanting to be a salon owner with no experience, or all these things. He's proven to me that I can do it. Why not me? And so I think that that's important. I also feel like when it comes to timing, the time will pass either way. Why not now? And God's timing is never wrong. And there are every single day, especially with having two businesses, I cannot tell you the muscle memory that I have that I got from motherhood, not from years of salon, that allow me to be able to multitask and pivot, being a business owner and being a hairstylist and being a mom. That is like my life experience, where someone could say on paper, who does she think she is? She has no business owning one salon, much less two. These are the lies that I believed in my head, is what I'm saying. Yeah. No one actually said that to me, but guess what? Little did I know my experience as a mom. My oldest is 19. I have a lot of motherhood experience that actually equipped me, in my opinion, better than just time behind the chair, because it's dealing with different personalities and different, the day may not go how you thought it would, and being able to pivot and being able to compartmentalize what is in front of you. And one example is like, you can have with multiple kids, two of your kids are crying. One is crying because they sliced their finger, and the other is crying because they want a snack. As a mom, you have the ability to say, snack can wait. I have to deal with this first. And guess what? The child that wants a snack, they feel like it is just as urgent as the child that's injured. But the reality is, you as the mom know what is ultimately most important and what you need to prioritize. I feel like that has really played into my ability to manage businesses in general, is my ability to compartmentalize and say, okay, this has to be number one. This has to be number two. The other huge mindset is the lie of balance. That is a lie. We live in a world where everyone wants to use it as a buzzword and, balance your life, find more balance, do these things and you'll have more balance. That is a lie. A wise woman of 7 kids, who is near and dear to me. I love her so much for her wisdom. She said to me, there's no such thing as balance. There is simply only choosing each day what must drop so that you can prioritize what must be that day. Yes. And so there are days that I prioritize, like homemaking things. Like, we have to have a uniform for tonight. I have to prioritize this laundry, or I have to prioritize groceries, or whatever it is. There's other days where it's going to be some Chick-fil-A for dinner, because we have from A to B on time, and I had to work. And therefore that is the only way I could make that happen that day. Right. And I can't get up in doing all the things all the time. You can't do that. It doesn't exist. And you have to be okay with yourself saying, these are what I'm going to prioritize today. And these simply don't have room. They don't have room on my day. They just don't have room. So that has been a huge mindset of letting go of thinking that every day should have all the things. And then the other thing that I would say is just, I mentioned a little bit about it before, but just that people are already thinking anyway. And most of the time we don't know, but like, instead of getting hung up on trying to control how someone will perceive me, I've decided to just be myself. And it may not be like stereotypical, but I don't know a whole lot of people I don't know about you, but I've never met 2 women with the exact same story from birth to death, ever. Like, we've never met 2 people with the same story. Sure, we all have like similar life experiences and tendencies, but like, everyone is technically coming at their life through past experiences that are unique to only them, a timeline that is unique to only them, plans that were changed that they weren't expecting, or that they did, so at the end of the day, it's not productive to try and anticipate how you might perceive what I'm about to do, or anticipate how you will view me, because the reality is, there can be truth and lies, especially with doing hair. One thing I had to learn kind of young in my career is like, one woman can be a loyal client of mine. No, 2 women could be a loyal client of mine. And one could say, I'm the best hairstylist she's ever had. And one could say, well, I went to her and that's the worst experience I've ever had. And the reality is, they both can be true. Yeah. Kind of stings as a stylist, but it's true. There may be something that I could have had a bad day. I could have been distracted. I could have had something really heavy on my heart that I maybe wasn't as mentally present with that client as they deserved, or I just simply could not be for that client. There is something very real about just accepting that I'm not for everyone. And so both of those things can be true at the same time, but neither have to fully define me. Just because one woman says I'm the best stylist she ever has that I'm the best stylist in the world. Is that true? I don't know. We'll never know. There's not like a competition where we can measure the actual best stylist in the
Maybe
world.
we should have that. No, I'm just kidding.
But like the reality is doing hair is creative work. It's art.
Right.
So I'm somebody's favorite artist and I'm someone else's least favorite artist. And they both can be true, but it doesn't have to like change how I decide to approach my art.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It's super subjective and it can, like you just said, it can't define what you do and how you think. Yeah.
And this one is a little tough too, but this is also true. As much as you shouldn't get hung up on the rejection or the negatives that people could think, you also can't live for the approval in terms of when they do vocalize it to you and say, oh my gosh, this is so good. It's also not good to live in that mindset either, even though it feels good. It feels great when someone compliments you and says, this is amazing, or you're doing amazing, or your life is amazing, whatever. But it's also not healthy to live under that either, because the reality is like, while I am proud of my work, I really feel like I'm just doing what God is calling me to do. You know what I mean? So like, I don't want to find myself taking credit for my business success or not. It's really how God has worked in my life. And I have to be mindful to like keep him at the top no matter what and say, because as much as I need to lean on him when it's hard, I also want to lean on him and say, thank you so much for this, because I couldn't have done any of it without him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I mean, maybe we'll use this topic to kind of wrap up the talk too, even though we could definitely keep going, just looking at our time. But that's one of my favorite topics, but I think it's also because it's really close to my heart, because it's something that I'm very sensitive to my tendencies, I guess you could say. It's a weakness of mine, because I don't like to call myself things, but I have a tendency to want to overachieve. I have a tendency to want to earn, and accomplish and chase those things. And so, God has put this, 2 words, striving or stewarding. Are you striving or are you stewarding? And so every day in so many moments, I catch myself going, wait a minute, am I striving or am I stewarding? Am I stewarding a gift that God has given me to serve others, to honor him? Or am I just striving to make a name for myself, or to have somebody clap, or have somebody, like you said, go, oh my gosh, you're the best stylist in the world, or oh my gosh, I just love what you just wrote? Am I living for that, or am I stewarding a gift that God's given me that will bring him honor and hopefully help others along the way too? And I feel like that's, similar to what you're saying of, are you showing up every day because like what is your motivation? Like, why do you do what you do? Is it, I think I know the answer. It's what you've been talking about it, and letting other things go, letting parts of your life that don't serve you anymore be, pruned away by the great gardener, and letting the real growth happen, wildly, or flourishing, and all those, visual words of just, rose bushes just overflowing, or hydrangeas, whatever the flower of choice is, but letting like some of those things that would potentially like choke you out or keep you like looking really pretty, but you're not actually growing and providing what you're fully capable because of what he can do through you, and like in that root system and all the things we could talk about. But, maybe to kind of pull it all together, I love everything you've been sharing, but like, what keeps you going? What helps you dream for more? Like, why do you show up every day? If another opportunity knocked on your door tomorrow, like, why would you say yes to it? Would you say yes to it?
I feel like why I do what I do is like, from a practical standpoint, the creativity, the potential. I love even looking at someone's hair and seeing the potential in their hair and how it's going to tie into how they feel and how they look. I also think that like that's like the day in, day out of just doing hair that keeps me going, that I feel like I will always want to do hair regardless if I'm an owner or more. But I feel like when it comes to like a business owner and what I'm striving for, I mean, I don't know that I have, it's interesting. I don't always know. I don't know what my plan is forever with it, but I do feel like I'm just trying to like make the most of the opportunity that I have. And I want to, like you said before, be a good steward of this opportunity. But I also think that it is kind of just fun and special to be able to look back and say, hey, I did that. And, certain aspects of my business have changed. just since becoming a business owner and talking about the pruning and the hard days. And it's interesting because if you would have asked me a few years ago, if God would have said to me, okay, I could offer you this, but in order to get there, you're going to have to go through all of this. I think I would have, I'm not really sure. I don't know if I would have signed up for it. I really don't know. I think that's the beauty of God, is that we don't know what tomorrow will bring. But now, knowing, if I had to answer that question now, I would say 100%. Yes, I would. And it's not because I have reached some, arrival. I haven't arrived at where I want to be. I'm far from it. But the place and what he's been able to do, it's almost like he removed things and he laid a foundation while also removing some things in my life in order for me to be able to fully step into my role as a business owner. Whereas I feel like before, early on, there were a lot of things that I was just sort of taking over and not necessarily building myself. And I think ultimately I want to look back and feel proud of what I did. That's what I did, whether it was from something or nothing that came from me. That was my vision. I love being able to say, wow, look at that. I believed in myself. I believed in myself, and I could have given up and I didn't, or I really had no reason to do that. And I did. And yes, it was all because God brought it to me. But at some point we do have to just believe that we are the one to do it. Right. And it's not, oh no, so-and-so would be better. Yeah. And so I think that is a big purpose, is like, I really want to be able to look back on my life and say, wow, like, I'm so glad I got to do that. Yeah. I'm so thankful I did that. And so
glad I said yes. Yeah.
I'm so glad I said yes. Yeah. And then from a little side note, a lot of this is only cringy until it works. And then it's success. And that's what success is.
Yeah.
So many people doubt the musician on the street along the way. Maybe not even doubt, but they may not believe that they're going to make it.
Or yeah.
So many musicians trying to make it. And then when they make it, it's like, wow, like that's impressive that they stuck it out through all of this sort of, nobody really thought it, and I kind of want to view my business like that. Like it's only crazy or cringy or awkward or uncomfortable until it works. And then it's success, and it's just the story of your success. And so that's kind of what keeps me going whenever it feels uncomfortable or cringy or whatever it is that I'm trying to overcome.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. We can definitely all relate with that. And even when you think you've reached a new level of success, then there's a whole nother level of cringy that goes with the next growth step. So yes, that's so good. Well, this has been such a fun conversation. Like I said, we could definitely keep going, but I want to make sure everybody knows where to find you. So it's Erin Weathers Hair on Instagram, and maybe
I'm a little more active on just at Erin Weathers.
Erin Weathers, okay.
Erin Weathers, and then Maidley Hair Co. is, a lot of people at first don't know how to pronounce it. It's just Maidley. It's not Madeley or Madeley. It's just Maidley. Just Maidley Hair Co. So that's my business brand, and then my personal. I'm more active on my personal Erin Weathers.
Awesome. Well, and we'll include this in the show notes too, so everyone can follow. Okay. And her vlogs are super fun. And this podcast episode, I think, might make today's. So that's super fun. Yes. Well, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I hope everybody who has listened has been enjoying it. I'm sure they have. But I love your story. I love your to be continued. I love every chapter. I love being one of the ones that gets to sit in your chair and catch up in between all the growth and pieces coming together and falling apart and getting built back up and all of that. It's so fun. So your friendship is yes. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us, and we will be back soon. Hey friends, thanks so much for tuning in today. Before you go, it would mean the world to me and my family if you would share this episode with at least one person who you think might benefit from this message. And of course, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. You can also follow me at Ashlee Erin on Instagram to keep up with our adventures and for continued encouragement as you pursue your big ideas. Thanks again for joining us. Until next time.